program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the middle of the African bush. You can see there's a lion walking behind myself and Jandre. This is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here in the Greater Kruger National Park, South Africa. My name is Brent and I've got Jandre on camera. And of course, we are with the Nkuhuma Pride, who have had a busy day. They've managed to kill not one, but 2 buffalo during the day, and this lioness was just chasing some vultures off the second carcass. The rest of the pride, or not all the pride, and she's going to lead us right back to them. And a very big welcome to Glenwood, North Landing and Malibu schools. This is your game drive live from the African bush, so please send me questions about these incredible cats we're about to see. I'd love to hear from you, or if any other questions you have about the African bush, we will do our best to answer them for you. Now, we've got a bit of a lion traffic jam at the moment. There we go. Look at that. Now, sorry guys, I just see on the Game Drive channel, so there's lots of different people out here. Okay, just to let everyone know, it's Brent WildEarth who's in the Nkuhuma sighting. Okay. There we go. Look what's coming up around the corner. It's a big male lion, a beautiful beast in its prime. Like, there we go. And there's a little cub lying down in the... And there's the rest of the pride feeding. Let's have a look. Now, this is a buffalo cow that they've managed to kill. And here we go. Look at all of them. No more than 6 feet from us, feasting upon their midday snack. There's 2 little cubs there, just under 6 months old, still feeding. Look, look, look. Another lioness has just arrived, and she's greeting the male. Now, lions are the only truly social cat, and all these little greeting ceremonies are very important. Hey, look at that. Now, do it this way. Turn around, mister. What he was doing there, you saw him baring his teeth there, like that. It's called a phlegm grimace. Now, that phlegm grimace is what happens when he smells a female's urine. And it is one of their ways of communicating. So he can pick up from the urine when she's ready to mate, when she's going to be an estrus. Now, Mrs. Daniels, hi Mrs. Daniels, is wondering why are the lions completely ignoring the jeep? Having a bit of a fight, the little ones. Now, a jeep, a lion... Oh, wait, listen to that. Oh, is the argument over? Now, the lions, these particular lions, have grown up with vehicles around them, and lions don't have an instinctual response to a car, because the cars have only been around for about 100 years. So if you drive carefully and considerately, and you don't push their boundaries, they completely ignore the vehicles, as you can see, and carry on with what they would do naturally. And that's one of the amazing things about being out here. We are able to witness all these incredible different interactions between the various animals that live here in the Greater Kruger National Park. Look at that. So as sad as it is to see a dead buffalo, without the buffalo dying, there'd be no food for those little lion cubs. Now, of course, there used to be 8 little lion cubs, but we'll go into a bit more depth later. So yeah, I didn't quite hear that. Valora was asking, why are the lions so big? Big. Now, Aurora wants to know, why are the lions so big? Well, they got to be big so they can catch big things like that buffalo. And of course, if they've got a very fat belly, they're just big because they've been eating too much buffalo. But they have to be big enough to fill their niche in the ecosystem. So they are the apex predator, which means they are the top predator out here, and they have to be big because they eat big things, is the best answer I can give you there, Aurora. Oh, what you got there? Now, of course, Genre and I are not the only people out here in the African bush looking for animals, so let's go meet Taylor.
Good afternoon, and like I said in the pre-drive drive, I said I had a little surprise. And, well, here it is. We're looking at a ginormous hippopotamus. And the fact that he's out all on his own, and by the size of his head and the rest of his body, this must be a boy. He's a big boy. And you can also see that there's a couple of birds hopping around on him. But before I get into too much detail, I suppose I better say hello. Now, my name is Taylor, of course, and on camera with me this afternoon we've got David. Let's take another look at this incredible animal. Now, we're very lucky to be seeing a hippo out of the water, because normally they spend most of their days trying to keep away from the hot sun. So they'll lie around in water preferably, but if there's no water, they'll settle for some mud. But because it's a nice cloudy day today here in South Africa, he's taken advantage of this cool day and the fact that the sun isn't out belting down on him, and he's out munching some grass. So it's incredible that an animal of this size just feeds on grass, and normally they only come out at night to, of course, eat the grass, but luckily he's got the cool weather on his side. Now, there's quite a few different species of birds that are climbing on him. You can see the red-billed oxpeckers dangling from his legs, and that bright bird that was in front of his face that has now run away is a Cape glossy starling. There it is. And what they're doing is these little bluebirds are picking up all the insects. As the hippo moves through the grass, is kicking up lots of little insects. And the oxpeckers, the ones that were dangling off of its body, well, they're feeding on the ticks, the parasites that eat and feed on the hippo's blood. There's one. But they also seem to be a little bit cold this afternoon. Now, I'd love to hear from all of you, so if you've got any questions for me, you're welcome to send them through to your teachers. Now, Mia, you're wondering how much does a hippopotamus weigh? Now, I'm going to do a bit of a conversion, of course, but they can weigh sort of, I would say, about 4,500 pounds, not too much more than that. They're quite large, and he's really big. Now, I don't think he's going to get any bigger. He looks like a fully grown hippo. And would you believe, Mia, if I told you that this hippopotamus can run very, very, very fast? Even though he's got the shortest little legs I've ever seen on any animal, especially for the size of his body, they can run up to about 30 kilometers an hour. David, do you know what the conversion is in miles? I keep forgetting. I'm not sure, and my maths is not very good, unfortunately, so I'll just have to leave it at that. But it's quicker than you and I could run. And I reckon that Usain Bolt could maybe outrun him for about 10 seconds, and well, then he may be in a bit of trouble too. This hippopotamus will probably catch up to him in the end. But look how big he is now that he comes out. You can just see the pure muscle around his neck, under his shoulders. Now, Aidan, you're wondering why hippos have such big teeth. Now, we know that they just eat grass, so they don't use them to catch any animals. The males have got massive teeth, and the reason for this is for fighting and for protection. So when the boys fight over the groups of the ladies, we call the herds of hippos, the groups of hippos, a pod, and they will battle it out, and they will open their mouths. Often they open their mouths first to expose those big teeth, saying, look how big and strong I am. And if there's one hippo that's smaller than the opposing boy, well then, they'll probably move away and realize that he's going to bite off too much, then he can sort of chew, and he'll go off and on his way. But if they're of even size, they will then move towards each other, open their mouths and start biting away. Now, even though they've got quite thick skin, those teeth can do a lot of damage. Now, Seamus, you're wondering why hippos are so fat. Now, I've been very lucky. There was a hippo that unfortunately died due to the drought conditions. This was about a couple of months ago, and they opened it up. They did an autopsy, so we got to see the organs, and we got to see all these incredible things, the different parasites that live in the different parts of the stomach. It was really amazing. But one thing that I found particularly incredible was how much skin and how much fat that a hippo actually has on it. So not as much fat as what you think, very, very thin layer, but the skin was probably about that thick, probably equated to almost 5 centimeters or so. So really, really thick. So they have that protection, that thick skin. They obviously need to try and keep themselves warm during the day. They use the sun, but remember, they live in water for most of the time. And the rest of their skin is really thick. But the epidermis, so the top layer of your skin, the first layer, is really thin. It's only a couple of millimeters thin. Now, that's actually quite easy to penetrate. So you could even take a stick or something and you could cut the hippo quite easily. But luckily for this hippopotamus is that they've got the secretion that they release through all of their pores in their body called hipposudoric acid, or you can call it blood sweat. And in that, it has an antiseptic as well as a mild sunblock. So that's how the hippo protects itself. Remember, I told you that those boys like to fight and they can cut each other open quite easily. Sometimes when you see them, you sit and you think, oh, that's so terrible. But they heal so quickly because of that antiseptic that they have inside of that hippo blood sweat. Now, this, unfortunately, the hippo is now disappearing down into the drainage. It's not just Brent and I. James is on foot and he would love to say hello to you.
Good afternoon, everybody, from Malibu, Glenwood and Heartland Elementary Schools. I hope you're having a wonderful time here in Africa with us on safari. My name is James. On camera today is Brian. And Brian's thumb. In fact, he has both thumbs with him, but only one of them is, sorry, that is North Landing, not Heartland. I'm sorry about that. Heartland's quite a good name, though, really, don't you think? Now, we've stopped here for a very special reason. This bush is a whole ecosystem on its own. Now, I don't know if you know what an ecosystem is, but basically, it's everything in a piece of earth that is both living and unliving. So it would be the soil and the stones and the rocks and that sort of thing, and then the trees, and then all the things that eat the trees and the grasses and that sort of thing. But every little bush like this is an ecosystem unto itself. Now here we have a bush, and we have a whole lot of beetles. There's a very interesting example of one, and I'll pick one off the plant now to show you. And what the beetles are eating, it seems like they're eating the sap of the tree. And then once we've seen the beetle, there's one of them there. They're a beautiful copper color. There you can see one. And that beautiful copper color shining and makes them look like little pieces of fruit, really. Alex, while we look at these beetles, it's a very good question you ask. How many animals do we have here? Alex, it's impossible to say, because we can vaguely tell how many impala there are, or how many hippos, or how many elephants and lions. How many beetles are there? Beetles are also animals. These things that I've got in my hand here, this disgusting looking worm, this is also an animal, believe it or not. And so it's impossible to say how many animals there are. There are millions and millions of wasps and beetles and mantises and grasshoppers and flies and bees and wasps and various other things. I said wasps twice there, sorry about that. And this is the grub or larval form of dung beetle. So this is dung. Of course, to watch that. Moan and Pumbaa and Simba were moving around through the bush on their own, and they were eating little worms and things. This is the kind of thing they were eating, and a human being can eat these delicious stuff. Right, we're going to get a little bit further away. We've got better signal. Let's head across to the footlands.
Welcome back, everyone. We're still sitting here with the incredible Nkuhuma pride and the adult lionesses. Look at that. So even though lions are incredibly social and friendly to each other, when it comes to dinner, they can be very, very nasty to each other. They don't have good table manners. Now, guys, I know this is quite sensitive, but this is nature, and this happens every day out here in the African bush. So just a warning that sometimes, especially when lions are feeding on something, it might become a little bit graphic. Okay, let's have a look. We're not gonna stay here too long. We're going to see what else we can find. There are other game drive cars that want to come see these lions as well. Now, Dirk is wondering how many lions live in this park. Dirk, well, in the greater Kruger itself, the whole population is estimated to be between 1,500 and 2,000. Around there. That's the estimate for the whole park. In our little section of the park, we've probably got about 4, 5, 6, 7, 20 or so. But it varies, and they move in and out of our area quite regularly. Callie's wondering, do most lions eat buffalo? Now, that one's got stomach content all over its face. She's trying to eat the stomach lining. Of course, she's not going to eat what's inside the tummy, because that's grass, and lions don't eat grass. There we go. Now, Callie was asking, do all lions eat buffalo? Well, if they get the opportunity to. Generally, it's quite difficult for a single lion or female lion to bring down a buffalo, but as a pride, they do eat a lot of buffalo. Well, this pride in particular specializes in buffalo, and it's the food they eat the most. Now, Hannah's wondering, will the lions eat the whole buffalo? Hannah, they'll eat most of the buffalo. They're not going to be able to eat the skull or the brain casing. It's really, really hard. And the big bones in the legs, the spine, and the ribs, they're not going to eat that. But almost all the meat they'll try to take off. Okay, well, let's have a look at the one cub who's suckling from its mother. There we go. So he's been eating buffalo, and now he's drinking milk. Now, Colin's wondering, do lions hunt in packs? Indeed they do, Colin, except they're not called packs, they're called prides, and they're made up of related females. So all the adult females in a pride will be related, and there'll be moms, aunties, sisters, no uncles, but male lions will come from different areas, and like the big guy who's lying in the road over there, so he's a Birmingham boy, so he's come from about 40-50 kilometers from here, and that's how lions keep their genetics good, is that the related females stay together, but males change every 4 or 5 years, and that's to stop inbreeding. Now these are happy looking cubs, big fat bellies. Okay, well, I think we're going to go see what else we can find out in the African bush. We'll leave the lions and let someone else come have a chance to look at them. So while we move out of this area, let's go see what Taylor's up to.
Trying to now is Ghana. Now he hasn't been on the property for quite some time. These leopards have territory, so we know that when he comes around here, he's probably going to hang around for a couple of days and go through the pathways that he likes to walk and remark his territories. So I'm just very quickly turning down the radio, and that's who we're looking for. Now, what I have to do to try and find him is, I don't think he was seen this morning, is I've got to look for his footprints. As the animals are walking on these roads, well, they leave their footprints behind, but it depends on, of course, the quality of the road. So if it's nice and sandy, that helps us because the ground is a lot softer. This road is not the greatest road because it's quite hard, so it makes it quite difficult to, of course, see their footprints. But who have we got here? Let's see if they're going to sit behind. Let me go back a little bit. There are 2 little birds sitting on a tree. No, they're not staying. Hey, David, can you see them flapping around there? Now, we saw the cousin of this bird earlier with the hippopotamus. We saw the Cape glossy starling. Now we saw the bigger starling, which was the Burchell starling. But they don't want to hang around today. But that's okay. Are they still there, David? Oh, there they are, hiding in the distance. And it's a pity that there isn't much sun today, because they've got beautiful iridescent feathers. Now, Jackson, you were wondering about the birds that sat on the big hippopotamus that we saw. Now, you're wondering why do they do that? And that's because those oxpeckers, the red-billed oxpeckers, physically remove the parasites that are feeding on the blood of the hippopotamus. So those are called ticks. And I'm sure you know ticks and fleas. Sometimes your cats and dogs can get them at home. That's what they like to eat. Let's carry on. There's a couple of birds shouting around. Let's see if we can see who they are. But we are making our way towards Buffelshoek Dam. Apparently, to Ghana, there may be footprints in the mud. Okay, we'll carry on. On top of that termite mound, on the trees that are growing on the termite mound. You see that? Look how beautiful they are. These are called magpie shrikes. And you can see they've got beautiful long tails. They're one of the few birds that have these lovely long tails. What we often see is normally during the breeding season for the boys, they get these beautiful long additional feathers, and often a long tail feather. But both the male and the female have the tail feathers. Isn't that lovely? Now they're sitting there waiting for some insects to start moving around, maybe some caterpillars or grasshoppers. But we're going to start heading down towards Buffelshoek Dam and see if there's anything there. But let's go back across to James and see if he's found anything interesting.
How delicious, everybody. Do you know what this is? This, everyone, is elephant dung. Now, many of you, of course, will be disgusted by the fact that I've picked up any kind of dung at all, and that is completely normal. And in fact, it's a good idea. You shouldn't really pick up dung unless you know exactly where it's come from. And I know where this has come from. It's come from an elephant. And elephant dung, if it's about a week and a half to 2 weeks old, smells delicious. It's just like spices. It's like smelling a whole sort of mix of delicious spices. Lovely. Now, Callie, you want to know what the most common bug is around here. I would say, well, remember, there are two things to that question, Callie. A bug is a specific kind of an insect, like a beetle. So you can't call a beetle a bug, and you can't call a fly a bug. But the most common kind of insect out here is probably the mosquito. So there are lots and lots of different mosquitoes around here. There are also lots and lots of flies, because lots of things die out here every so often. You know, that's just what happens in nature, and the flies, of course, eat all of those things. Now, let's just go over here. I'll tell you why. Just walking in front of us there is Herbert. Now, Herbert is a very, very fine tracker indeed, and he has said that we must come over here because he's going to find us something, I think. And Herbert grew up in this area, so he knows absolutely everything there is to know about the plants and about the animals out here and about finding things. Oh, look what Herbert's found, everybody. Jordan, you say, how come we are not afraid out here? Jordan, the reason we are not afraid out here is because we have, first of all, someone like Herbert looking after us, and also because we've got lots of experience here. Now, if you imagine, there are two things I'm going to show you here. First of all, this rather terrifying beetle. Now, this is a beetle, not a bug, and we know that because it's got a specific kind of what we call elytra. So these wings have been fused or made hard to protect the wings underneath. So we know that this is a beetle, and look at those vicious, vicious jaws that it's got, that it uses to defend itself. Isn't that a vicious beetle? So you can tell that this is probably some kind of biting beetle, some kind of beetle that eats other things. And Aidan, you want to know if this could hurt us? Yes, Aidan, this beetle could probably give you a bit of a bite. I don't think it would hurt you, but it would certainly make you go, ow! So we're not scared, everybody, because we've been trained. Now, it's exactly the same thing as if perhaps, imagine that you grew up on a farm and you'd never seen a vehicle before. And then you went to town and suddenly you were surrounded. You went to New York City and suddenly you were surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of cars going up and down, and taxis and buses and trains and planes and people. You'd be very scared indeed. But out here, of course, it's the same thing. If you've come from a city and you come and work in a place like this, you start off being quite scared, but you get used to it. You get used to what the dangers are, and you become able to learn what's going on here. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you here, and the colour is quite spectacular. Oh, but I've lost it. Oh no. It was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous little piece of an animal that this beetle ate, I think. Eric, while we're looking for it, you want to know, what does he want to know again? Oh, do we always pick up elephant dung? No, not always, just when I really want to smell something delicious. There's the jaws of another one of these beetles. And I'm just wondering what has killed them. And things like scorpions will eat these beetles, I suppose. There could be birds as well would eat them, but you see, a bird would swallow the whole thing. So I don't know what's killed this fellow. He looks pretty fearsome. Anyway, that's the story here. We're going to continue moving now and see what else we can find while we're on foot. And the idea behind our bushwalk here is to look for the things. We might see some big stuff like buffalo and elephant, but we'll probably try and avoid them, and we'll just look for little things, tracks and birds and that sort of thing. Now, on the subject of birds, Taylor's got a very special, tall bird to show you.
Now we've got this beautiful woolly-necked stork, but Brent is just trying to get hold of me. Brent, can you stand by for just 2 minutes? So just quickly chatting to Brent. Brent's trying to get hold of me, but I'll have a chat with him now. So we've got this beautiful woolly-necked stork that's sitting up on the tree. There was actually another one, possibly a pair of them. We've seen them come through over the last couple of weeks. And I suspect I know why they're hanging around in this area. And that's because, unfortunately, a buffalo died almost 2 weeks ago because of the drought. Now, he's died around the corner. And sometimes these woolly-necked storks will actually feed on the carcass. It's not very common, but it has been recorded before. And also there'll probably be lots of other insects and little crustaceans, because we're here at Buffelshoek Dam. I actually want to show you what this beautiful dam looks like. Have a look at this. They like to hang around these areas, but it's so nice to see that woolly-necked stork. Like James said, it's not a bird that you see every single day, but unfortunately nothing has come down to drink at the water. But it's very hot today, and there's lots of little watering holes. Oh, there it goes. Nice catch there, David. We'll see where it lands. Is it just going on top? Okay, let's go around the corner then. Now, Aidan, you're wanting to know how many different types of birds do we have in South Africa. There's about 850 odd different bird species, which is quite a lot. There's a little gap. There's the stork just in the distance. Now, that's quite a lot of birds. Now, I've probably only just seen just shy of about 400 birds, so I've still got a long way to go. And it takes quite some time, and you have to look very, very carefully if you want to try and find all the small birds. We call the little birds little brown jobs, or LBJs, because they all look the same. I'm just going to move out the way. There's a gentleman that would like to come past me. See, it's not just us out here driving around. There's actually lots of people coming on a safari. Thank you. We'll quickly sneak around and see if we can get one more look. Now, we're not going to go too close to that buffalo carcass, though. It doesn't seem like too many things have been eating it, which is not great for us, unfortunately, because now it's very... Now, Mrs. Coffin, you are wondering if there's a camp, a lodge, sort of, where people can come and stay on safaris. You're quite correct. There are indeed. There are many different places out here. We're in the Sabi Sand of South Africa, which is a big wilderness area. And there's probably about 35 different lodges. Well, how incredible is that? So you can come and stay at any one of those. Now, isn't that incredible? What we're going to do now is we're going to say goodbye to these birds. And I think James has got something interesting to show you.
Now, this is something, everybody, that some birds are able to eat and some birds are not able to eat, and it's called a millipede, and it's got itself into a little bit of a ball because it's very afraid of me and Brian. Mostly Brian, of course, because he is 6 feet and 4 inches tall, so it's very terrifying indeed. Now, milli means 1,000, pede means foot, so it's got supposed to be about 1,000 feet. Now, that's not quite true. It's probably got about 300 or 400 different feet, but it's just called a millipede. And it's from a different sort. It's not an insect. It definitely cannot be called a bug. It's from a great big group of insects of invertebrates called Myriapoda. Now, I'll just turn it over for you. The reason I don't want to touch it with my hands is that it has cyanide in the skin. Now, cyanide is a very bad poison. It's not enough to hurt us at all, but it's enough to make it defensive for birds. So birds often don't eat these because of the cyanide, but one bird that uses the cyanide is something called a hornbill, and hopefully we'll be able to show you a hornbill. You've all seen The Lion King and you've seen Zazu. Zazu was a hornbill. They use these in their nests. Kemaya, are you worried that if we are bitten by a bug, we might not have the right sort of medicine out here? Kemaya, there are very, very, very few invertebrates or insects that can bite us and cause any harm at all. One, I suppose, would be a centipede, which means 100-foot. That's also a different group of invertebrate animals like this one. They can give you a bit of a sting, but not enough to really create a great trouble. There are only 3 spiders out here that are dangerous to human beings. One is called a violin spider, the other is called a crab spider, and the other is called a button spider. And other than that, there are very few that can cause trouble unless, like Brian, you're allergic to bees. Now, bees, of course, can give you a sting, and then you have to have medicine. But for the others, mostly everything's okay. Bees and scorpions are the two things that you'd have to watch out for if you're out here with no form of medical care. But we've got a little first aid kit with us, and we're never too far away from help, so it wouldn't be a problem for us. All right. Question: why do you roll up like this? Ben?
Okay, so we've left the lions. We're going to help Taylor search for Tingana. So we're now down in the eastern section of Djuma. We're heading right towards our eastern boundary, and we're going to start moving towards the south. Now, we've had some fantastic sightings over the last couple of years in this area. So who knows, maybe today is going to be another one of those days. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV if you'd like to ask us any questions. Okay, and keep peering into the bush, and as it gets greener and we get more rain, it does make spotting animals a little bit more difficult, but it is so lovely and green and beautiful. And the clouds, I wonder if we're going to get some rain later on this evening. And you can see a dark and ominous sky, cold and windy weather, and that's probably why the Nkuhuma has had such a successful hunting day. Now, Derek, hello Derek. Derek is wondering what other animals in the cat family live here. Well, Derek, we've got other big cats, cheetah and leopard. Then we've got some small cats, African wildcat, caracal and serval. And yep, that's all the cats we get here. Quite a few different cats if you think about it. We've got the fastest cat on top of the termite mountain, Andre. There we go, spotted a bird. Here we go. What is that one? Who knows? Is it? Oh, look at that puffed up neck. We can hear calling. It's not that one calling, but it's the same type. It's called a red-crested Korhaan. Come on, give us a call. Now, the reason they sit up on top of termite mounds like that, or out in the open, is so they can look for friends, or lady friends in particular, so they're quite visible. Well, he's being a little bit boring today. He's not calling or giving us a show. So we're going to keep looking for another one of our big cats, the leopard. So we've already been through all the cats that Derek asked about, and we're going to keep looking for one of them now. Hopefully we'll have some leopard luck, you never know. And one of the best ways to find leopards is to look in the sand. You think I'm joking? I'm not. So they obviously leave footprints, and so whenever I see a nice little bit of soft sand, I have a quick look, make sure there's no leopard footprints there, so I know where they're going. Now, another person who likes looking in the sand, and it's a bit easier for him because he's marching around on foot, is James. Let's go see what he's up to.
I'm not looking in the sand now, everybody. I'm standing on a tree looking for Herbert. I don't know where he's gone. I think he's gone off down there somewhere, hopefully finding something special. But this is a very special kind of tree that we have out here, and it's called a marula tree. And the marula tree produces the most delicious fruit you could ever imagine. And that happens around about January time. In fact, some of them have already started to produce small fruits already, but they won't be ripe to around sort of December, January time. And then they are very delicious indeed. Lots of vitamin C, lots of sugar, so they're sweet and lovely. This one has been pushed over by an elephant. Now, if you look around here on the ground, you can see that there are no fruits, no pips, no nuts on the ground, which means that this was a male tree. Only the female trees produce the fruit, and the elephants seem to not push those trees over. And I suspect they pushed this one over because they were trying to get at these leaves over here that Brian's going to show you, nice and fresh, and the elephants do like to eat the leaves of the marula tree, and sometimes also the bark, especially when it is very dry. And we've just had a very nasty drought, and I think that the elephants probably pushed this tree over then. Isn't it lovely? Kemaya, you say, if we're out here on foot, would we eat the animals? Kemaya, well, we don't have to really, because we're allowed to go back to camp at the night time, and then we have a meal cooked very similar to the one probably that you're going to have when you get home this evening. But if we had to live out here, could we survive? Yes, we could, but then we would have to hunt one or two animals. But remember, if we hunted a small impala, which weighs, say, I don't know, 120 pounds or so, that would last a family at least a week if you managed to dry the meat properly and didn't let it rot. So yes, we would have to hunt, but we wouldn't have to hunt too many animals. There would never be an effect where we would kill all the animals and live in an area where there weren't any animals anymore. There are enough roots and berries and fruits and things out here to survive unless you can hunt. And that's the way it's been in this area for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But the best fruit to eat, of course, is the Christmas and January marula fruit. That's the nicest thing. Now I'm going to try and climb out of this tree without falling over. And if I do fall over, everybody, I hope that you will come and help me. Brian, will you help me?
I'll film it.
Brian says he won't help me, everybody. He's just going to film me. Now, while I'm doing this, I must just tell you that Taylor has very cleverly managed to find herself an animal. It is a small animal, and its name is Matsigitso in Xitsonga. So let's go and have a look at that.
We've got the smallest little carnivore in the Sabi sand, and this is called, well, the English name is a dwarf mongoose. So probably a distant relative of a weasel, something along those lines. But they are tiny little critters, so if you had to pick up your ruler, they're probably just a little bit longer than that, really, really small. And as David zooms out, can you see all their little heads popping out of the termite mound? Isn't that just adorable? Now, as cute and as cuddly as they look, they are fierce creatures. They take down scorpions, they'll even go after snakes and beetles and grubs and all sorts of amazing things. But at the moment they're being quite cautious and just keeping an eye out on us. Now, Miss Daniels, you're wondering what time of the day is the best to go out and look for animals. Any time of the day, really. I enjoy morning safaris. Just hearing the dawn chorus as the birds wake up in the morning and catching that sunrise. But you can really go out at any day. Middle of the day, I've seen all sorts of different creatures. But ideally, it depends on the weather conditions. So it's nice, actually, to have a hot day to go on a safari, because then you're most likely to get the animals coming down to drink water. On these cooler, windier days, things tend to hide away. But it seems as though we're having some luck this afternoon, which is wonderful. Now, these little dwarf mongoose, they live in families. Like I said, I counted 5 of them so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I can only see 5. You can see the 3 heads there. And then you can see the 2 down on the left. And they usually use these termite mounds that have got natural tunnel systems. They obviously widen them though, so they can fit inside. and they'll probably sleep here. Or maybe this is just a hiding spot, a temporary spot, in case an eagle or something flies over that could potentially try and eat them. Then they need to race away and hide, and this makes for a fantastic little spot. But they can live in big families. Oh, I just heard some thunder. Now, Aurora, you've asked a fantastic question this afternoon. You want to know, can these dwarf mongoose see in the dark? Now, you can see they've got beautiful red eyes, or reddish-brown eyes, with the biggest pupils you've ever seen. And they're very inquisitive and staring at us at the moment. Now, I don't think their eyesight is particularly good at night, because they actually go to bed as soon as the sun sets. So they are diurnal animals, which means that they are active during the day. But I reckon their eyesight will probably be better than what yours and my eyesight is at night. And that's the thing out here, is that these animals are incredible and have adapted to being able to survive in both the daytime and the nighttime. But luckily for these little ones, they don't have to worry about too much at night. They all cuddle up in a termite mound with each other and will try and keep nice and warm. And that's another thing about going on the early morning safaris, is that you will normally see a scene quite similar to this, but it's of them waking up, poking their heads out and trying to get the warm rays of the sun to warm their bellies up. I was hoping they were going to come out, but we're quite close to them. We're only a couple of feet away. Now, Raina, we were mentioning earlier about how fierce these creatures are, and you wanted to know, what do these mongoose eat? They feed on scorpions, they feed on snakes, they will even eat beetles and the grubs, and anything that really moves. I suppose if they can get hold of a little lizard, they'll probably eat that too. But they eat a variety of different things. But like I said, these are the smallest predators that we have in this particular area. Now, speaking of predators and what the dwarf mongoose eat, Daphne, you were wondering, what is the predator of this dwarf mongoose? Eagles, snakes, or even some of the things that they're going after as food. They will actually turn the tables and try and go for them. But really anything, even a young lion cub, if it were to catch a little mongoose like this, would be very good and valuable, sort of learning behavior on how to hunt. Even a leopard, a hyena, you name it. But I think the biggest threat to the dwarf mongoose has to be the different birds of prey. So the martial eagles, the dark chanting goshawks, lizard buzzards, you name it, all these wonderful little birds will swoop down and try and catch these little critters. But they are quick. And because they live in a family group, there's lots of eyes always watching around, making sure that nobody's trying to eat them. So if somebody does come around, one will give an alarm call, and it's a high-pitched squeaking noise, and they will all race for cover, so either in a termite mound or in a fallen log. Now, Mia, you've stumped me here. You want to know, how much does a dwarf mongoose weigh? I don't think it weighs more than about 500 grams. Oh my goodness, it's really, really light. It's probably only about, how much is that, David? I have no idea. Louise, can you please help me with my conversion, because I've gone completely blank for some reason. Probably, we're going to have a look and just convert it. I must apologize. My brain is not working very well this afternoon, but very, very, very light. They're not heavy at all. Like I said, we use kilograms and grams, but I wouldn't say more than about... there we go. Thank you, Louise. So Louise says it's about 17 ounces or so. So quite small. Remember, if you take your ruler that you'll use at school and you look at the length of it, it's probably just a little bit longer than that. So not big at all. Like I said, they're like ferrets, but mini ferrets. We get different types of mongoose species, though, in South Africa. In this area, though, this is the most common. And then we also get the banded mongoose, which lives in family groups, but they've got stripes on their body, as their name suggests, and probably about double the size. And then another one called the slender mongoose, which is a little bit more elusive and quite shy, and they live on their own, so we call that solitary. So we don't usually see them very often. But thankfully that these little critters are so curious, and one of my favorite things to do when I was guiding at a lodge was to get my guests out of the vehicle and actually sit on the ground close to a termite mound that I knew that I'd seen a mongoose run into, and we'd sit and sit and sit maybe for 20 or 30 minutes, and eventually the mongoose would relax and poke their heads out like they're doing now. Some of them would even creep out of the termite mound and move around and sort of carry on foraging, which was quite incredible. But you had to sit very, very still, because even if you moved your toes, they would race back into their mound. But that was definitely one of the highlights. And I wonder if they can understand me. Now, Asegale, you're wondering if the mom mongoose will go out and hunt. They will all go out and forage together. So they work in groups, and they'll sort of move around in an area, and they will dig for termites or beetles that are maybe moving under the ground, or a scorpion. They'll dig out of their burrows. And if it is a young little mongoose, then mom or dad, both of them will look for food. Remember, these little critters are able to move around quite quickly, only a couple of weeks that they won't be able to move around too much and fully depend on suckling from their mothers. But after that, they will come out and sort of move around with the family groups looking for food and learning. But of course, if mom finds something nice to eat or dad finds something nice to eat, we'll then call the little one over in the mongoose language and then obviously help feed it. But I just love it that they just haven't even moved. Just they're bobbing their heads in and out. Now, as we speak about the little mongoose, Daphne was wondering if there are any babies here. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it. I can't see any particular small ones. Maybe there's some inside, but they wouldn't come out if they still had no hair. So these ones look relatively old. David, you see that one that's just poking its head out on the bottom right, or that's just popped its head back in it? I think he saw it, or it saw me pointing at it. I think that one looks like a little one. We can't see it now, but you'll see David's going towards the hole that it was poking its head out of. But it seems to be quite shy. That one looked a little bit small, so possibly that was still a youngster. But the other ones, just by the size of their heads and their bodies, from what I can see, they look very much like adults. But can you see those claws? Look how sharp they are. Very good for digging. Oh wow, look how cool that is. Very, very long claws. Now Mia, you're wondering if these mongoose are cold-blooded animals. They're not. These are warm-blooded, so they are mammals. So they don't lay eggs. They give birth to live babies. And this is one of the characteristics of mammals, of warm-blooded animals, is the fact that they have got hair covering their body, and also that they have mammary glands so that they are able to produce milk. We've obviously seen it with the reptiles and the birds. They don't have any mammary glands. Hello everyone. Look how sweet they are. I'm hoping though that they get a couple of the rays of the sun just before the sun sets, because I think they're going to be in for a chilly evening. Like I said, I heard some thunder rumbling in the distance. And in the far, far, far distance, there's some dark skies coming. So perhaps we're going to be lucky and get some rain this evening. But I think we're going to say goodbye to these little mongoose now. We're going to carry on. And I'd actually like to try and find some elephants, as well as look, of course, we'll continue looking for Mr. Tingana, who hopefully is going to pop around a bit later. But as we continue the search for either elephants or Tingana, let's go across to Mr. Henry.
Just listening here, everybody. I just wanted to show you some... Herbert's found something. This is a piece of plant called Ziziphus mucronata. Try and say that a few times. Ziziphus mucronata. You must all eat your greens. Don't forget, you must eat your greens. And all of the animals like to eat, even though they've got such vicious thorns. And one of the reasons, of course, that it has vicious thorns is that there is such a lot of nutrition in the leaves. All the animals like to eat them. Now come over here. Herbert's found something else special for us. I didn't give any to Brian, which wasn't very nice of me. Sorry, Brian. Brian says it's okay, everybody. Now, Herbert has gone and found something that I don't know the origin of, but it's quite pretty. It's gone. Oh, there it is. Here. Look at this fruit. Oh, I do know exactly what this is. This is a beautiful plant called a num-num. Isn't that lovely? Now, it's already made its flowers. Now, that's quite unusual. Remember, we've only just started the summer in this part of the world, and these flowers, or these plants, make very beautiful white flowers called, they're called num-nums really, and they smell like jasmine. Now what happens when you make a flower, or when a plant makes a flower, is that the flower eventually gets fertilized and then it makes a fruit like that. So every time you eat a peach, or let's say an apricot or a berry or something like that, remember that it was once a flower and it was fertilized, it was pollinated, and it became a fruit like this. Isn't that lovely? Mason, you all seem to be rather fascinated by the death and danger that is capable out here. Well, you want to know, Mason, what is the most dangerous plant out here? There are a few poisonous plants. I'll tell you one of the most dangerous ones. In fact, I can probably find one for you. Come over here, Mason. Come with me. We'll just go down into this little thicket here. In fact, I can see one of these trees immediately. It's a special tree, Mason, called the Tamboti tree, and I would call this a particularly dangerous plant simply because it has a sap, which I'm going to show you now, that is white. And that white sap is very poisonous to human beings. This tree here, if you ever come to Africa, Mason, remember, if you see a tree like this, you must not try and cook on it, and you must not eat the leaves. And I'll show you what I mean. See there, on the end of the leaf, there's some white sap. Now that sap we call a milky latex, and it's very, very toxic and poisonous to human beings. So if you eat that, what happens is you can actually die if you eat enough of it. Initially what it does is it gives you a very runny tummy. And if you try and cook on the wood from this Tamboti tree, it will make the meat that you've cooked very bad indeed, and that can actually kill you. So that's probably the most dangerous plant in Africa that I know, and it's called Tamboti, or Spirostachys africana. Spirostachys africanus. Okay. Stumped when you first asked. I didn't quite know what you meant, but there we figured it out now. Alrighty, let's head back across to Brent. He's got a couple of antelope to show you. I'm not sure what kind of antelope. We have 9 species here. Let's go and find out which one it is.
We've got a nice mixed group of antelope here. We've got some Nyala, those are the chocolatey brown ones, and Impala, those are the slightly light coloured ones, slightly smaller as well. Now, it's not uncommon to find different antelope species hanging around together, and the theory behind that is that more eyes you've got, the better the chance to spot the lions and the leopards is. And we can have a look. Some of those female Impala are extremely pregnant. Clayton would like to know if we've got any wildebeest or gnus. They've been doing a research project on the Great Migration in Kenya. So we do have wildebeest. We don't have a big migration like that. Our wildebeest generally are in groups of 15 to at the big side 30, and the males stay in one place and the females move between the different groups of male or different male wildebeest. Now, oh, what have they all spotted? All of a sudden, a lot of heads went up at the same time. Now, it pays to be cautious out here, of course. I'm really hoping we're going to see the first baby of the season. So, Impalas give birth at this time of the year. And Nyalas can give birth any time. Except those ones, because those are boys. Okay, well, we're going to keep moving. You can actually see how pregnant they are there now. Well, Kira's wondering, what do the antelope eat? Well, you can see those impala are eating grass. Now, impala eat grass and leaves, whereas Nyala only eat leaves and bushes. So it all depends. Different animals eat different things. And a wildebeest only eats grass. Very windy. They've got to be extra careful when it's very windy in case something sneaks up on them, because they can't hear too well or smell too well. There's that beautiful young male in Nyala. Now, hello, Zoe. Nice to have you with us, Zoe. Zoe's wondering, why do antelope have antlers? They don't, Zoe. Now let's go have a look at the far right, the biggest male. There's also a female Nyala there. Under the tree. You got them there. There's a tree in the way. There you go. There we go. You can see there. So those are horns, Zoe. Those are not antlers. So they never fall off. So they're bone on the inside, covered by a layer of dense hair which is keratin. And whereas antlers are only keratin, and they grow seasonally and fall off, whereas horns are with that animal for the rest of its life unless it breaks them, and when it breaks them, they don't grow back. And that's the major difference between antelope and deer. We don't have any deer in South Africa, well, not indigenous deer. So all the animals, all the antelope we have, all of them have horns. Sometimes males and females have horns, but most of the time only the boys have horns and the girls don't. Well, let's keep on searching. We're now right down in the south of Djuma. Let's have another look now quickly for Haven, who would like to know, why are there stripes on the impala's tail? Whoop, there we go. Now, you guys get ticks in the USA. We also get ticks here. And those black dark areas are to try draw the ticks away from its softer areas. So that black helps to draw the ticks away from its nether areas. There we go. That's why there's stripes there. I just got to be on the Game Drive radio quickly. Copy, Rex. Where are those in Konzo? Where would on Gari Main, heading west at the moment? Where would you like me to check? So Rexon's just found footprints of leopards with 2 babies. So I'm going to go see if we can help him find those leopards. Copy. Thanks, Rex. I'm about to cross Moati. Okay, so it's a very, very exciting. We're going to go look for a female leopard whose name is Karula, and she is our dominant female, so she holds territory, and she's got 2 cubs that are, what are they now, 9 months, nearly 10 months old. So it'd be very exciting if we can find them. I love spending time with that leopard family. Well, it's been great to have not 1, not 2, but 3 schools with us today. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and we hope to have you back on live safari soon. But I hope the rest of your school day has been as fun as this has been for us, and a toodaloo for now. So welcome everyone, and isn't it great we're able to educate people from all over the world in schools. It is a very special thing and a great responsibility for us, one that we accept with relish. Now, of course, and there's lots of you going to be wondering about what's happening with the lions. I'm going to give you a quick brief update, and remember, we can't speculate. We're just going to have to wait to find out what happens. So as you saw, there were only 4 Nkuhuma cubs, and 2 have died, and their carcasses have been collected and have been sent away for testing. So as soon as we know, we will let you know immediately. Now, it is very sad, but so far everything is pointing towards a natural disease, not one that has been brought in by human beings or whatnot. But as I said, we can't be 100% sure. That's just what it looks like so far. And hopefully those other 4 cubs that we've seen there, they look relatively healthy, they look good. Hopefully they're not going to be affected by that disease. Now, excitement. Karula's tracks have come back from the south. Rexon spotted them, so we're going to go give him a hand. We're heading east from the old roadworks quarry, which is probably about 2 kilometers up ahead. So I'm going to check to make sure she hasn't done a Queen Karula and snuck back to the south, and I'm keeping my eye out. Hopefully we're going to have a little leopard luck. It feels like I've spent so much time with lions over the last while, I've forgotten what a leopard looks like. Now, I think while we look for Queen Karula... Oh, Rexon's getting hold of me. Copy, Rex. I'll check from Weaver's Nest to Treehouse. Okay, so Rex has given me a job where to check. But while we go checking, I think it's time for a nearly impossible tree quiz. Ha. Now let's see our oh, hang on, before we nearly impossible tree quiz, let's just binocular. Oh dear, my binoculars have caught on the radio. Just give me a split second here. Here we go, that one, not that radio, the other one. So many radios here. Ha, voila. A bush. Yeah, I just thought I saw something lying under the bush up ahead. I thought, oh, could it be? Could we be so lucky that it is Queen Karula? Now, a nearly impossible tree quiz. Doom, 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 doom. Let's see what tree we can find for you. It can't be too easy, because otherwise in a split second you guys have got it right. Come on, where's a tree that's got leaves? I think it's a bit unfair to ask you one without leaves. Or is it? Well, I think maybe we should start with a slightly easier one. Aha, there we go. Let's start with this one. And then we can always work our way to a more difficult one. There we go. It's one of the elephant's favorite foods. It's got a bipinnate compound leaf and big thorns. If you know what tree this is, let me know by using the hashtag Safari Live, or pop an email to questions@WildEarthTV. There we go. Look at the young branches. Oh, we can hear lightning in the distance. I mean, not lightning. You can't hear lightning. We can see lightning. We can hear thunder in the distance. And there we go. Let's see how quick you guys are today. And while we continue to look for the Queen of Djuma, Karula, I think James has found something smelly.
Well, we have found something smelly, everybody, and I do warn you that this is not particularly delightful to look at. But I'm going to ask you to suspend your disgust and enjoy the sighting with me, because it is very interesting from a biological point of view. I do warn you, it's pretty disgusting. Now, many of you would have been following the fate of this buffalo. This buffalo, of course, is in fact dead. It is not alive, is it, Brian?
No.
Why? How do we know that?
Because it's not breathing.
It is not breathing, that is correct. Also, it is not chasing us, which indicates that it is not, in fact, alive. Now, everyone, what is interesting here, yesterday, many of you would have seen it, Steph came here and there were maggots all over the place and there was still quite a lot of moisture. Now it looks like that moisture is all finished and we're just left with the hard sort of leather of the skin that has been partly eaten away, and there is none of that really sort of, I don't know, what would we say, tar-like black gunk coming out of this buffalo anymore. The flies have gone and so have all of the maggots. Well, just about. There are one or two left, and there are a few beetles around the place. Now, what's interesting is this thing, I think we found about 2 weeks ago. It had died in the water down at Biffelsook Dam. It was then dragged here by a tractor and left. And what's fascinating is that until last night, no predators had come here at all, other than the avian scavengers, so the vultures had been to have a go, and obviously the flies, you can describe them as predators as well. Then, last night, a hyena came here. I'm assuming it was a hyena. It opened up the rib cage and it's bitten off the ribs. It's had some very nice buffalo rib there. It's cleaned off the sort of sinew, although I doubt there was much left. I'm sure most of it would have disappeared. And then it came around this side to the nose, and as Brian showed you earlier on, the nose has now been kind of chewed off, and what we're left with is a whole lot of teeth on the ground. These are the incisors from the bottom jaw. They used to go in this hole over here. Can you see this hole, Brian? There are the teeth and there's the hole. You'll notice I'm not touching this with my hands. Herbert said to me, as if I needed any warning, he said, do not touch this with your hands, and I quite agreed with him. I thought that was a very good idea. And of course the buffalo only has incisors on the bottom teeth. Very good. And when I look at the horns of this buffalo, that this buffalo was not particularly old when he died. He wasn't necessarily sort of on his last legs, but I think the drought and disease that came with the drought probably knocked him out. The reason I paused there is some quite interesting ticks still trying to eat off him, and I suspect they're going to struggle to find any form of nutrition. Look at these rather interestingly coloured golden yellow ticks. Again, not something I'm going to pick up with my hands. Paul, you said it looks like it's mummified. That's precisely what's happened. It's just kind of rotted on its own. And that's so unusual out here. And I think that there's a much wider story to tell about this buffalo and about the lions that have been eating the buffalo, and the reason that this buffalo and many of the others that have been killed have not been eaten. And I think you'll find that that story has got quite a lot to do with the fact that there's a disease in these buffaloes. Well, there are probably many diseases in them. They've eaten very poorly over the last almost 6 months, and that means diseases are starting to take hold. This carcass was rejected outright by lions came past here. There must have been leopard coming past here. Hyena as well, first time last night after 14 days. 1 or 2 vultures had a go at it, but that was all. And I think the wider story is one that, of course, we've seen played out with the Nkuhumas, a very sad story of the cubs now falling prey to what we think is something called white mussel disease, which is precisely from eating a diseased and nutrient-deficient buffalo. The mothers are not producing the milk with the selenium and vitamin E that they should be, and the cubs are therefore struggling. And so it's quite a wide and interesting drought story that we've been telling. Right, that is the buffalo. Brian, would you like to spend any longer here at all, ever?
No.
No, because the smell is...
It's horrendous.
The smell is horrendous. Okay, good. Let's carry on. Herbie, should we head this way? Right, Herbert says we should go this way. So we'll pop off here and we'll go and have a quick look at the dam and see if there's anything drinking water. Well, because that's all there is to drink in the dam, really, isn't there, Brian? Yeah. Yes, it's not exactly a bush pub. All right, Right, we're about 50 meters from the dam. Let's head across to Brent to get an update from him, and we'll see you there if there's anything there.
Well, no sign of the Queen of Djuma just yet, but there has been this wonderful burst of sunlight to warm us up. But there's a very big storm that was hiding amongst those clouds. And we're starting to see the top of it coming through now. I mean, look at that. It is always awesome to have light, nice bright sunlight with a dark sky coming in. Makes for some beautiful scenery. Now, the only thing that could make it better is if we put Karula, Hosana and Shongile with that backdrop behind them. There's a monkey track. That is not what we're looking for. So it was not a weeping wattle, it was indeed an acacia, Patricia. What's what Patricia said, acacia. But I would like to know which acacia. Okay. So her last tracks were coming through this sort of way. So I'm going to head down towards Twin Dams or Elephant Carcass area, and the tracks of the cubs are with her as well. So fingers crossed she's made a kill, and we're going to find her languishing in a nice large tree near the Mawati River. Okay. Always look carefully around these areas. You never know if she's stashed the cubs in one of the little river systems that are around here. This is the one that goes from Treehouse Waterhole down towards the Mawati, and a very firm favorite of Karula. Gosh, Karula. What track is that? It is Howard the hyena. It is not the royal lady. Okay. I've got a funny feeling that she might be close to the Mawati. I don't know. If I don't have any really good tracks to go on, quite often how I find animals is I try to think like an animal, and I go on my gut instinct, and my gut instinct says we should check the Mawati. So everyone, we're now thinking like Queen Karula. So we're thinking like Karula. I'm going to stop, pop my head up, see if there's any Impala around. Nah, nothing. Carry on. Okay, Karen would like to know, is it a white thorn acacia? It is not, Karen, but that is getting closer. So we're still being Karula, walking down here. What did I hear? Could it be? I thought I heard coming from somewhere around here. So they have woodlands kingfishers have been seen close to us, just to the south of us on Chitwa. Oh, and I've almost forgot. Wonderful news. I spoke to Yors on the radio, and young Sindila has been seen just about a kilometre to the east of our boundary. What's that? Some Nyala. Now they're looking quite alert. Now I don't know if they've spotted Rexon, who's tracking in the block. I'm hoping they'd rather spotted Karula. Nothing yet, Rex. I'm just following up on some squirrel and a go-away bird alarm calls close to the Mawati elephant carcass. Okay, well, we're going to keep searching for the queen, and you guys are going to have to keep thinking about what that tree is. And while we do that, let's go back to James, who's sitting next to a waterhole.
I am sitting, everybody, on a peninsula overlooking the great Biffel's Lake, and here I am meditating at the magnificence of the western horizon, the sun now beginning to peep through the clouds there. You can see the horizon is something spectacular. There is an enormous storm blowing in from the south here. It is bearing with it thunder. Thankfully no lightning yet, but of course if there is lightning I shall simply stand next to Brian, who is 6'4" and with a big pole on the back, and so I should be safe standing next to him. There's nothing else going on here. A couple of birds. We've got I spotted it, the wood sandpiper was here somewhere, but now it seems to have absconded. Anyway, that's one of the first migrant birds to come along here. Then we also had a couple of blacksmith lapwings. They also seem to have gone off. And one lonely Egyptian goose from the pair of the most incompetent parents, of course, that we've seen at Djuma. They lost all 7 of their little goslings last year. Hopefully they'll be a little more useful this year. Right, and that was Biffel's Dam. Nothing else seems to have come down to drink. This is not very surprising, of course, because we are sitting in a pretty chilly day. It's been fairly wind-swept and wind-blown. Now we'll go up through here, see if we can find something interesting. Sean, you're sitting in Secunda, where I guarantee you it's more dangerous than it is living here where we are. You say, what is the most dangerous animal to find on foot here? Sean, it very much depends on what the animal's doing and in what state it is. So, for example, at the moment, the animal that I want to walk into the least would be a buffalo bull. Now, the buffalo, of course, are tremendously stressed at the moment, and that means they're on edge, they're nervous, they've been eaten by lions. Well, sort of 40 or so of them in the last 50 days have been devoured by the Nkuhuma pride. And so I think what I don't want to walk into the most right now is a buffalo bull. That's not always the case. I have walked sort of from me to you away from a buffalo bull before. He's just kind of looked up chewing and not worried about me. In normal circumstances, I suppose, depending on where you are, Brian was just attacked by an hawthorn tree. In normal circumstances, I guess an elephant herd is something you want to be very careful of walking into, because of course an elephant herd, they can be very protective of their calves. It can be quite difficult for them, and so they can be quite stressed out. So I guess elephant herd and buffalo bull would be the 2 things that I'd want to avoid the most. Good. All right, well, we're going to carry on looking for small things out here. There's some flowers, but let's head across to Taylor and get an update from her, and we'll join you shortly with something else.
Now, sadly, we're not having much luck with the elephants and the leopards just yet. I believe Brent is on it, and he's managed to pick up some tracks of a leopard. We're not sure who just yet, but hopefully something develops from that. It seems as though Brent is on a roll this afternoon. Now, David, where are we going to look for elephants? Because I want to see them this afternoon. That's very specific, right? David says that there's elephants on Weaver's Nest, so we're going to take his word from it, yeah. And if we don't find elephants on Weaver's Nest, we know who to blame. We'll go down that way, though we're a wee way away from that, but we shall continue and have a look so far. Let's see what's happening around here. But there's thunder coming in, so I wonder if we're going to perhaps get a bit of rain a little bit later. Hey, look at the sky. Oh, I don't know if we're really going to get... Hang on, David. Let me go forward again. I'm going to show you, because there was some nice crepuscular rays shining through the clouds. Where are you? There's the gap. Isn't that lovely? And I think that this is as much of a sunset as that we're probably going to get this evening. Unfortunately, the clouds are coming in thick, and it seems like there's a bit of weather that's coming from the east. So I wonder what's going to happen there, but we'll have to wait until a bit later, I suppose. Right. And I believe that Brent said he thought he may have heard the first woodlands kingfisher. That's quite exciting. Now, sorry, let me just hold on. David, you holding on? Bit of a big dip over there. Now, James, you were saying that you also hoped that we would see some elephants and a leopard this afternoon. Wouldn't that be quite lovely? Now, I'm not sure where Tingana disappeared to, though. I'm actually wondering if I shouldn't perhaps head a bit further west and maybe go check that western sector, seeing as though Brent is now down here on the south sort of eastern corner. I think that makes more sense. He's on the tracks this side, and I think Rexon is helping him search. So I think we're going to head probably down towards Mvubu Road. We'll have a check around there and just see if we can pick up on any footprints, because the odd occasion I have seen Tingana, what I have seen, I think 3 or 4 times in a row, often late at night when we're on our way back after the show is finished. I always see him coming down past and going over the cross of the dam wall and then going straight towards Mvubu Road. So maybe we'll go and have a look around there and have a look, because there was definitely nothing at Buffelshoek Dam. And I know James is also there now, and he's been on foot, so he would have easily spotted some footprints, actually much better than what I, myself or David would have had. Now, I can't believe how quiet it's been. David, you know that we haven't seen one impala yet today? Not one impala. Can you believe it? The most common antelope in Africa is evading us today. So we may have to swing past quarantine as well, because we know that every time we go there, that's where they probably will be. Right. Come on, animals, where are you? Not even an insect, not even a... Not even, I wanted to say millipede and then I wanted to say shongololo at the same time, so you got a mmm. Apologies for that, my stuttering this afternoon, so terrible. James probably would have had a good laugh at that. Yes, at least Kirsty and Louise found it very funny. That's fine, I don't mind, as long as I'm keeping you entertained and making you laugh every now and then, that's fine with me. Now, who have we got sitting on this tree, David? We've got Life. We do, we have Life, we've got 2 lives. It looks as though, oh, look how cool that is. We have a Bateleur. Hello, Bateleur. Very easy to identify with the red beak, and it looks as though it's still a juvenile. Did you see that? How it wasn't completely black. And there's somebody else. Now, David, who's that? We're going to have a closer look. That looks like a Wahlberg's eagle. Is it? No, it looks a little bit too big. Maybe that's another juvenile. It's a difficult one. It's quite difficult to see, because if you look at its facial skin, it looks a bit grey, but then it looks a bit yellow too. I'm going to have to change my mind there. And I'm going to say tawny eagle. We'll go with tawny eagle. You know, you can... Oh, there you go. I can actually see the tail now that I look carefully. But for a moment, when I first looked at its face, because that's often where I'm drawn to looking, is checking the eye colour and, of course, the beak. And initially it actually looked completely grey, which is typical of a juvenile Bateleur. But it's not. It's a tawny eagle. It's quite interesting to see the 2 of them sort of in such close proximity. And normally these 2 species of birds, the Bateleur and the tawny eagle, are often the first ones to spot carcasses on the ground, because they fly at such a lower level compared to the vultures. So I wonder if they've found something, or perhaps they're just taking a rest, trying to keep out of the wind. You can see it's very windy out here today, as the branches blow around in the background. But I think it's actually quite lovely to see this juvenile Bateleur. Like I said, even though it's got the red legs and the red facial colouring now, its feathers are still chocolate brown. So it's probably in its last year before it reaches adulthood. It would be nice if we could actually see it take off and open its wings and see how far along that white wing paneling is coming along. But for now, there we go, actually opening its feathers. Can you see the white on the inside underneath its wing? So I think it's definitely in its final stages and almost about to become an adult. So it must be around 5 or 6 years old, somewhere around there. What a lovely bird. Giving itself a good preen. Perhaps they've already feasted on something during the day. There's definitely no shortage around at the moment of food for the various carnivorous species, from the mammals and of course right through to the predatory birds. Look at that drongo though. That drongo is definitely not happy with the Bateleur and the tawny eagle. You can see that there's the drongo right in the top of the middle of your screen. You can see that Bateleur was also looking up, just keeping a cautious eye on it. Wasn't that lovely? Thank goodness the saving of the day of the Bateleur and the tawny eagle, and of course the drongo, who we can't forget. That was lovely. It's always nice to see a couple of birds. Now we're going to carry on along towards the western sector to see if we can find Tungano, maybe some elephants, and well, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you for a little bit, but let's go back across to James and see how he's doing with that buffalo carcass that he had earlier. I wonder if he's not sick.
This is nongonoko, everybody. It's a special kind of a tree, and it's called nongonoko, which means single file. Now, single file, you can see why it would be called that, because of the leaf arrangement here. And Herbert has just told me, I didn't know that this thing had anything interesting about it, but there's a belief around here that if you go fishing, for example, you take a root of this tree with you and you put it on your belt or somewhere like that. And if you catch one fish, then all of the fish will come in single file to the same place that the first fish was. Same thing if you're trying to trap an animal, you'll tie this next to the trap, and if one animal comes along there, this will inspire them through the medium of probably quantum physics, Brian is nodding, to come in single file towards the trap, and you will have a lot to eat forever and ever. It is otherwise known as the dwarf bush cherry, or Meirua parvifolia. Very nice. Now we're just heading through here. We've left Beefles Hook Dam area, and we're wandering through some relatively thick bush. Herbie's just gone up in front. And now, of course, one of the most terrifying plants that you find in America is something called poison ivy, and I think it leaves you with great big horrible welts all over your skin. And Diane in Texas, you want to know if we get these here, if we get poison ivy here, and the answer is no, we don't. There's nothing nasty like poison ivy here, but we do get nettles sometimes, which can give you a little bit of an itch and a scratch, but nothing too bad. Then look at this flower, gorgeous flower called the string of stars, Heliotropum species. And it's one of my favorites because it's one of the first to come out. It's also one of the first that I ever learned to identify, and it's also very easy to identify because it looks like a string of stars. String of stars. Well done, Brian. Excellent job. And there were also some ants living on it, and I suspect that it's probably pollinated by ants. I'm just going to smell it. And it does actually have a smell. Wow. That is actually spectacular. I'm going to put it under Brian's nostril. What does it smell like, Brian?
I don't even know.
It's like honey.
Yeah.
It smells like honey, fresh, delicious honey. And I'm sure that's what attracts, it's probably the nectar inside it that smells like that, and I'm sure that's what's attracting the ants as they pollinate them. That really is absolutely delicious. It's very subtle. You only get it if you stick it right under your nose. So everybody take a very deep breath in.
Fresh honey. And
imagine fresh honey. That is gorgeous. Right, that is the string of stars. Very nice, Brian. Wonderful. On we go. Right, we're going to walk along this game path here and see what we can see. We haven't seen anything in the way of mammals yet. We saw a couple of Nyala when we started off. Bad luck, Brian. Careful. Brian, of course, is kind of hindered by a fairly substantial pole sticking out of his back. And this is made worse by the fact that he is so enormous himself. Now, one of the other things, the light is just now spectacular. Brian, how do I look in the light?
Oh, you look fantastic.
Do I look heavenly?
Amazingly
Good.
heavenly.
Thank you. Now, what else we have here is, of course, the baboon's tail, which many of you have seen many times before. But what I think is so interesting is that this will go dormant almost as soon as the soil goes dry, and it's a brilliant plant. It goes flushes green every time there's any moisture. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of winter or the middle of summer, and then as soon as it's dry, as soon as conditions are not good, it goes completely dormant. And little lion cubs love to play with this thing. It's the most wonderful thing to watch. Then there's another lovely flower over here while we're on the theme of flower. And this one